as you can to $1 without going over.
Oh my God. What it is, guys? It's your boy BlastphamousHD, and today we are here to check out a video called Brian and Peter's Craziest Fails Together. Now, I've been told they've compiled some of the craziest clips that they could get their hands on for this one.
From their frustrating search for a Thanksgiving turkey to competing for Lois's attention, here are Brian and Peter's 10 craziest fails together. We begin with the episode Brian the Closer. After a friendly perverted banter...
But if you also put in Edward Furlong's movie, Pecker, you got Pecker and Dick in the glory hole, and you got a tight squeeze, but it ought to fit.
Apologies if you feel that's offensive. Peter finds Brian's old rope toy, which to the dog is still sort of a big deal.
No, it's not. It's awesome. I can thrash it around, pretend it's a snake. Sometimes I just bite it like this. Rope!
That's stupid.
Can't help but agree with Peter for maybe the first time ever. But as expected, he disappoints once again.
I want it.
Well, you can't have it. It's mine.
Oh, yeah? Not for long, it ain't.
So, Peter spends the next couple of days plotting on how to snatch his dog's useless rope toy. And he would do just about anything to get it.
Just give me the rope. Nobody has to get hurt, Brian. All right, I warned you.
In the end, more than one person gets hurt as Brian, who stubbornly refuses to let go, ends up losing his teeth.
My teeth! Oh, man, I'm real sorry about your mouth, Brian.
Nah, you ain't. Brian tries to convince Lois to take him to the dentist, but her reply is anything but kind.
We're not spending human money on a deformed animal.
Following the rejection, the dog ends up at the bar drinking with Quagmire, who we all know hates him.
I don't care enough about you to lay into you. But now that you mention it, your face looks like a used condom.
Quagmire then refers Brian to his dentist, but with conditions.
And don't tell anybody about this. Now get the hell out of the bar, you pathetic son of a bitch.
Brian's surgery is successful, and he returns with a big smile. Even Peter couldn't help but acknowledge it.
That is the best cosmetic surgery in this family since Lois got a boob job.
Okay. With his new teeth, Brian is recruited to be a real estate agent after mistakenly closing a deal. Apparently, real estate agents are supposed to have big, bright smiles. When an opportunity to become a partner is presented to Brian, he decides to trick Quagmire into buying an old abandoned condo. Talk about repaying good with evil. After a rather elaborate presentation, Quagmire purchases the condo, only to discover he has been tricked.
Damn it, Brian screwed me!
That's why I've never made any major investments with my dog.
Should have said that earlier. Aware that the contract has a 72-hour opening to rescind the purchase, Brian decides to play a game of hide-and-seek.
They're gone.
Well, for the next 72 hours, I'm gonna be harder to find than a nice cat.
So, Quagmire tracks the dog down to his motel room, where Brian tries to outsmart him once again, but not this time.
And that is 72 hours. Enjoy your crap hole, dumbass!
You son of a bitch!
Well, that effectively puts an end to Brian's real estate career. In the episode Castaway, Peter, who in this episode is a fisherman, returns home empty, and Lois reads him the riot act.
Peter, we have a family to feed. We all count on you to provide for us.
I know, and I feel terrible.
At the Clam, Peter learns of the tales of Pelican's Reef, a place with lots and lots of fish, from which no man ever returns.
All right, everybody, I'll be back in a week.
Honey, be careful. This Pelican's Reef sounds dangerous.
That's why I built you a widow's walk, Lois.
If you are so sure you will be back in a week, why build a widow's walk? I'm just thinking out loud. So, his friends accompany him on the journey to the reef. Meanwhile, back at home, Lois and Brian learn of the approaching hurricane, RuPaul.
A hurricane? Oh my God, Peter's out there.
Don't worry, Lois. Peter's good at getting out of trouble.
Their adventure begins on a good note as they catch a lot of fish. But then, the hurricane strikes, destroying their vessel and leaving them stranded. After waiting for their return for months, the city, thinking that they are all dead, holds a funeral in their honor.
I know, sweetie. I'm sad too, but you're making a scene. All our friends are here.
Such a loving wife. Fortunately for Peter and the guys, who now look like cavemen, a ship comes to the rescue and they return home. But Peter returns to some bad news.
I'm not quite sure how to tell you this, but I got remarried.
What?
It was a very difficult time, and he was there for us.
Wait until you see who her new husband is.
Honey, I'm home. Peter, You're alive!
Now, that's just weird.
That's
Feeling
messed up.
dejected that his dog has taken his place, Peter walks out of the house.
Oh, Peter, I just feel terrible about this.
I don't need your sympathy. I don't need anything.
You can take your sympathy and shove it up your... Sorry about the language, though. Peter decides to fight for his marriage by lying down
hell
naked
no.
in the living room.
Peter, I know what you're trying to do, but it's not gonna work. I'm married to Brian.
Peter's plan works because Lois is kinda cheap, and they end up traumatizing Stewie. Meanwhile, Peter must have done it really good because Lois starts sneaking out to go get some more. Unknown to her, Stewie recorded her and Peter doing adult stuff, and he plays it for her new husband.
My God! How could they do this to me?
Can't believe Stewie would choose Brian ahead of Peter. On her return, Brian does her the favor of ending their marriage.
And to think, Brian, I was like a day away from having sex with you.
Let's hope she was just joking. Peter
That's what
and
they all
Brian go to the
say.
cinema to see a movie, but being mischievous, he sneaks in with a bottle of liquor. But soon enough, they become drunk and begin acting up.
Lisa, get away from him. He's a Nazi. I know Jews is bad, but them's is worse.
Sit down!
Move!
Stop blocking the screen, you jerk!
Peter then takes his craziness to a whole new level, forcing Joe to step in and arrest them. They then end up in court.
Your Honor, if you'll just let us explain.
I've heard all the testimony I'm prepared to hear. This court sentences you both to 30 days of Alcoholics Anonymous.
That serves them right. In compliance with their sentence, Peter and Brian attend AA where they both seem uninterested. Peter even almost gets into a needless fight about cars.
He said he had a sports car. That's cool, but what kind?
It was a Miata.
Oh, come on. That's not a
not a
sports
sports
car.
car.
How does that even kill a kid? What'd you hit her over the head with it?
That's a legitimate sports car.
Nope. Next.
Back at home,
Nah,
they
yeah,
continue
no.
to whine about how AA is just a waste of time. And soon, they get a bright idea.
We don't got a problem with our drinking. It's everybody else who's got a problem with our drinking.
That's it. The issue isn't that these people are alcoholics. They just have nowhere to drink without being judged.
So, in complete disregard for the law and the sanctity of AA, Peter and Brian show up at the next meeting with crates of alcohol.
No.
They also convince the rest of the AA attendees to join in their drinking spree. Peter and Brian sure know how to get themselves into trouble. Only that, they were both prepared this time.
Alcoholics, transform!
All right, what the hell's going on in here? We got a noise complaint.
Joe, shh. Peter's about to start.
We are gathered here again tonight, fellow AA members, to talk about the greatest temptation the devil ever created. Alcohol.
After drowning himself in booze, Peter gets behind the wheel and ends up in a ghastly motor accident that claims his life. Next, Peter's spirit wakes up from his body, only to be as silly as his body.
Oh, God, did I hold on to the touchdown pass?
What's wrong with you?
You know what? I was so drunk, my ghost is drunk.
Death informs Peter that he will be given another chance, but first, he has to show him where his life is headed if he continues being a drunk. He then shows him how boring his life would be like if he had never tasted alcohol.
What am I supposed to do? If I'm a drunk, I'm a jerk, and if I'm sober, I'm a douche.
Well, why not try moderation? Lois hosts a cocktail party Peter isn't exactly excited about.
That's the speech you were working on? Okay, now let's play a game. It's called Everybody Give Me an Idea What Time You're Leaving.
Meanwhile, for the party, they put their dog in its place.
Hey, is the party good out there? Can I come out?
No, Brian, you're fine in the kitchen.
So, during Lois's fancy party, Peter reveals that he has never read a book, a statement that ruins the party.
And once again, your ignorance of books has ruined it. Enough is enough. I got a junior high book list here, and starting tomorrow, you are reading one of these books.
Well, to meet up with Lois's high standards, Peter heads off to the library where he is completely transformed.
I did what you wanted. I went to the library and I got 1984.
What a book. Well, Lois gets to witness Road Rage Peter.
Damn it, Peter, I'm sick of this. Take that Van Halen CD back today.
No way. I ain't never returning that CD.
Lois eventually blackmails Peter to return the CD, but on his way, he sees a rock star hen and decides to enter a racing competition. Well, it ends in total disaster for him.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Griffin, but your husband is in a coma.
While in a coma,
I'm surprised he told him the truth. Usually Dr. Hartman is a jokester at the worst times.
Peter's unconscious self embarks on an adventure, but in the real world, Lois has to decide if she wants to pull the plug on Peter.
Mrs. Griffin, I have some bad news. Your husband is brain dead. I'm afraid it's time for you to make your choice.
Meanwhile, Peter's subconscious self is about to board a ship filled with the deceased. That's basically him journeying into the land of the dead until he gets unexpected news.
Senor Griffin, I think it's time for you to depart.
Hey, before I go, what's the boat's Wi-Fi password?
Oh, there's no Wi-Fi on board.
I don't want to go!
All because there is no Wi-Fi? Peter wakes up to find that Lois did pull the plug. I used to think she loved him, except in the episode where she chose Brian over him. Following Lois's decision, Peter holds a grudge against her until she decides to leave.
It's over. You'll never forgive us for killing you at the hospital, so we're done. We're leaving town today. You'll never hear from us again. It'll be like we died.
But after reality sets in, Peter decides to go after his family.
There's no way a non-ticketed civilian can...
Lois! Kids! Dad came!
In Death is a Bitch, Lois tries to get down with Peter when she discovers that her husband has a lump on his breast. After trying to deny its existence, a petrified Peter rushes to the doctor.
Give it to me straight, Doc. How long do I have?
Mr. Griffin, I'd say you have about a month to live.
Well, the doctor was only joking because his test results were not out yet. But that didn't stop Peter from being dramatic.
Listen, I've had a good life, and you can always be proud of your father and all of his accomplishments.
What accomplishments?
Go to your room.
Peter, however, continues in his preparation for his death.
I'm selling all my worldly goods so you'll have some cash when I'm dead.
Such a
That is legitimately the most ruthless burn in Family Guy. Can you imagine if you walk in a room with your family and you tell them, I'm okay that I'm about to pass away because I've achieved so many accomplishments. And they have to never look at you and be like, but what accomplishments? You just gotta murder him. That's the only way. Gotta take them all out. Put them all to sleep.
During his yard sale, the hospital calls with news regarding his test results.
Mr. Griffin, all your tests came back negative.
It turns out the lump on his chest is just a fatty corpuscle. Well, whatever that is, it means Peter is fine. But even with the good news, Peter isn't excited about the bill. So, in his usual greedy manner, he devises a plan to avoid the payment.
Wait a second, that's it. He can't make a dead guy pay his bill. All I gotta do is write deceased right here where it says name. And where it says sex, I'll write no thanks, I'm dead.
Smart choice, Peter. So, Peter might have just escaped death, but death comes knocking on his door.
Come on, man. Which one is Peter Griffin?
This is Peter Griffin.
Yeah.
Hey, that's a good one.
Peter tries to explain to Death that he is making a mistake, but Death has evidence.
Oh, I made a mistake, huh? Then what do you call this?
But Lois isn't going to let Death take her husband without a fight.
I don't care what that says. You can't take my husband.
So, to persuade Death, she invites him in for dinner. But dinner isn't enough to change Death's mind.
Well, that does it for me. Let's go, Peter.
Wait! You can't go. After dinner, we usually go into the living room and live for another 40 or 50 years.
40 or... Let's go.
Try again next time, Lois. But as they leave, Peter tries to run away, and in the ensuing chase, Death falls down and sprains his ankle. Peter helps Death, and Death decides that he's gonna hang around for a few days until he's back on his feet.
Peter, don't you see? As long as he's here, you can't die.
Death, however, has a warning for Peter.
You can't tell anyone I'm here, for if humanity discovers I'm no longer lurking in the shadows, the consequences will be dire.
Armed with that knowledge, Peter does every crazy thing he can do since he knows Death is on a break.
Peter, are you saying that if I shoot you in the head with this Channel 5 pistol, you'll be completely unharmed?
Why don't you give it a shot?
Since Peter ignored his instructions, Death decides to punish Peter.
This is all your fault, and there's only one solution. You have to go out there and do my job. You have to be Death.
Well, Peter fails in his first mission as the Grim Reaper, but Death isn't so mad at him because, thanks to him, everyone now knows that Death still exists. On Thanksgiving Day, Peter gets on Lois's nerves.
You want to tell me what the hell happened to our Thanksgiving turkey?
He confesses to his crimes, but Lois isn't going to have it.
You and Brian better get another turkey right now, and don't bother coming back until you do.
What begins as a routine market stop for a turkey quickly becomes a frustrating adventure.
Can't believe every turkey within a 60-mile radius of Quahog is sold out.
Luckily, they find a turkey after hours of searching, but Peter's bad luck is far from over. First, he practices his basketball moves before driving Brian's car straight into a lake. With Brian almost drowning, Peter shows just how selfish he is.
Peter, what the hell? You chose a turkey over me? I almost died! I swear to God, I thought dogs could breathe underwater.
Yeah, sometimes they fly. With the car and the turkey lost, and their phones dead, they are officially stranded. Luckily, they get a free ride to the bus station. But thanks to Peter, who stupidly decides to poop inside the bus, they both get thrown out.
I don't know what they were so mad about. I did it in a Rite Aid bag.
That doesn't make it less gross. Peter magically conjures a bike, but his bad luck is far from over as the bicycle's chain breaks. He then suggests that they hitchhike, but their streak of misfortune continues.
Hi there, folks. Hand over the turkey.
What?
I can't go back to my wife without a turkey.
On Thanksgiving Day, wives wield a strange power. But in the middle of their endless walk back home, Brian finally loses it.
Peter, do you not see that we are completely screwed here? And it's all thanks to you. And we don't have any transportation.
Being scolded by your dog for your irresponsibility? I never saw that coming. Peter then confesses that he ate all the turkey himself and set him up.
You son of a bitch! How could you do that to me? You're a dog, Brian. I can throw you off a bridge, and as long as I don't hit a person on a boat, it's okay.
That's mean. Now very pissed, Brian walks away from Peter, but Peter wouldn't let him be. Desperate to save his ass from trouble, Peter comes up with one more bad idea.
There's our answer. We break into the zoo, steal a turkey, bring it home. We're heroes.
As you must have already guessed, it's not as straightforward as Peter thinks. Yes, they find a turkey, but catching a turkey can be complicated. Brian even ends up in a lion's den, and Peter comes to his rescue. Turns out, Brian isn't just a dog to Peter, and he does care about him. Concerned about her upcoming SAT exams, which she is obviously unprepared to take, Meg tricks Brian into taking the test for her.
In fact, you're so smart. I thought you'd be the perfect person to maybe take the SAT for me.
What?
I thought she was about to ask Brian to take her virginity. Whew. We gonna edit that out.
That would be wrong.
Well, I suppose you may look at it that way. But a wise book once said, with the heart at stake, right and wrong is a stake through the heart.
I don't know what that means, but Brian wrote it and Meg's scheme works out perfectly.
Wow, ensnared by my own verbal trap. Well played, me through you. All right, Meg, I'll take that test for you.
Surprisingly, none of Meg's classmates or even her teachers could tell the difference. All Brian had to do was put on her cap. Apparently, Meg doesn't look too different from her dog. Meg gets her SAT results and it's far from what she expected.
That's the worst score in my class!
What?
Damn it! Why did I ever think you were smart?
I'll admit, I too used to think Brian was smart. The SAT results messes with Brian's confidence, and Peter sees it as the perfect opportunity to recruit Brian into the League of Stupidity.
Don't feel bad, Brian. It's fun being stupid. You don't gotta worry about nothing, you don't gotta read books, and you never die.
Peter, that's not correct.
How would you know, stupid?
Since he is already stupid, Brian decides to start hanging out with someone equally stupid. Who else but Peter? So after spending enough time with Peter, the dog becomes even more stupid.
No, I mean it. How could one bad test score transform you into a complete moron? Brian, I'm concerned something is very wrong with you.
Yeah, you are right. He has caught the Peter flu. Brian then collapses and is rushed to the hospital where we find out why he has been acting so stupid.
However, I'm sorry to inform you that Brian has a brain tumor.
To think that it took a tumor for a dog to be as dumb as Peter.
Well, I say we get that tumor out of him right away before he gets any dumber.
Brian, however, refuses to undergo surgery, so Stewie takes it upon himself to ensure the dog is smart again.
Good Lord! If I don't do something, his stupidity will kill him, and then I'd lose Brian forever.
When all his plans fail, Stewie decides to think outside the box to ensure that Brian undergoes the surgery.
Hey, Brian, you want to go see Dr. Hartman and get that procedure where you get 2 wieners?
Whoa, hell yeah!
No.
Stewie's plan works, and he gets the surgery. Peter walks in on Brian trying to fake his death by burning down his motel room so he can escape his marriage.
I can't take it, Peter. I thought I could marry Jess, but it's awful. I can't live this way.
Peter, however, convinces Brian that marriage isn't all that bad. He also decides to show Brian what it means to be a husband.
This is our spot, Brian. A place just for married guys like you and me.
Turns out the place is kinda magical.
Nope, been here for 30 years. You just can't see it until you get married. Watch, take your ring off.
Wow. Brian becomes so into the ways of husbands, he ends up being a lazy, good-for-nothing couch-sitting glutton until even Peter becomes concerned.
I gotta say, Bri, the guys at Husbands are a little worried about you. They said you had 4 Scott Peterson fish sandwiches yesterday.
Thanks to his being overweight, Brian dislocates his hips while trying to walk and ends up in the hospital where the doctor gives him some advice.
Wouldn't hurt to lose some weight. And he won't be able to walk until his hip heals. He'll need someone to take care of him.
That basically means Brian is an adult baby who needs constant care, and Jess has to be responsible for him.
Sometimes it's been difficult to cook with all the other things I have to do for Brian.
Oh, don't listen to her. I'm so easy. I do have to go to the bathroom, though.
Gotta feel sorry for Jess. Fed up with having to constantly babysit her overweight dog of a husband, Jess takes him to the dog pound.
Where do you think you are? This isn't a doctor's office. This is the pound. You're being euthanized.
What? Jess is having me put down?
Yeah, she is. Luckily, Peter goes to visit Brian in his apartment, where he learns about Jess's plan to euthanize him. If you are struggling to understand what that means, just know you are not alone. Peter had to drive to the library to decode that meaning.
Euthanize, euthanize, euthanize. Oh my God! I gotta do something! Damn it! Now I have to do that with every dictionary here.
Peter always finds new ways to show his cluelessness. Eventually, he figures it out and rescues Brian. While hanging out with Quagmire and Joe at the Clam, Peter complains about being tired, and Joe suggests that he drinks Red Bull for energy. What you just witnessed is Peter's reaction to drinking Red Bull for the first time. But I should warn you, what you are about to see next is way worse.
Hey, what's up, party people? Ah, what the hell are these things? Curtains or something? Boring! Hey, here's my little man!
Peter quickly becomes addicted to the burst of energy that comes from drinking Red Bull. He becomes a constant nuisance. He even appears on a live TV game show where he does the incredible.
Go ahead, Peter. Close as you can to $1 without going over.
Oh my God.
Whoa, paramedics, come on down!
Now that's way too much energy. So, to stop her husband from going crazy, Lois disposes of all his Red Bull, but Peter isn't ready to quit just yet.
What are you doing, Peter?
I'm making my own Red Bull. Lois can't stop me from experiencing the manic highs and lows my body demands.
But since Peter, as we all know, is very silly, he decides that he needs an extra punch.
Kerosene is fuel, Brian. Red Bull is fuel. Kerosene is Red Bull.
You can already tell this won't end well. Peter takes his homemade brew and collapses, only to wake up in the hospital where the doctor informs Lois that Peter has total kidney failure.
Dialysis? Is there any other way?
Yes, there is.
No. We'll do the dialysis.
So at the Clam, Joe and Quagmire advise Peter to miss his dialysis so they could watch one of their favorite shows together.
Yeah, it's probably just like missing an antibiotic. You just take the next one.
Yeah, you're probably right.
No, he isn't. In fact, he couldn't be farther from the truth. In no distant time, Peter collapses and ends up in the hospital again. Lois is worried about his condition, but the doctor assures her that Peter is on the list of those waiting for an available kidney. However, there are a lot of people ahead of him. Lois then volunteers to give Peter a kidney. But unfortunately, she isn't a match. Brian volunteers and he turns out to be the perfect match. But it's not that straightforward.
As a dog, Brian's kidneys are smaller and don't have the capacity of a human kidney. For the procedure to work, we would need to transplant 2.
To save Peter, Brian decides to sacrifice himself. But Stewie has other plans.
We're at the playground, Brian. I kidnapped you. You and I are going to spend the rest of our lives living right here under the slide.
What follows is one of the rare occasions where we see Stewie get emotional. Eventually, Brian makes it to the theater, but just before the surgery, they get some good news.
Well, you see, Mrs. Griffin, I found another donor for your husband.
Well, both Peter and Brian get lucky. In the middle of a heat wave, Peter walks into the house to announce that this year's Rhode Island Dog Show Championship will be held in Quahog, with a first prize of $500. With the heat in full swing and the family in dire need of an air conditioner, Lois has some ideas.
Well, if you won, we could use that money for a new air conditioner.
Hey, Brian, you could win for sure.
Brian is, however, unwilling to participate, but the family manages to convince him. But first, the dog would need some training.
Okay, let's go over the commands. Sit. Good. Roll over.
Peter, I'm already schwitzing like crazy here. Let's call it a night.
I don't think Brian is really interested in the training. So, the day of the championship finally arrives, and although Brian is putting on the brand new Italian collar Lois got for him, the dog is low on motivation.
I don't think I can do this.
You can't back out now. Look, how about a pill? Something to relax you before you go on.
Oh, by the way, say no to drugs. After a really impressive start, Brian's pride takes over as the dog refuses to continue with the routine when Peter asks him to do some dog stuff like begging for a treat.
Come on, Brian, we had a deal.
Yeah, well, the deal's off. Me and the little shred of dignity I have left will be waiting in the car.
I almost forgot to mention that Brian's a dog with high standards. The drive back home is an absolute torture for Brian, and Peter continues to accuse him of not caring enough about the family.
Pull over now.
Fine.
Oh, God. Brian, don't do this.
Now on the streets alone, Brian is arrested by a cop after he fails to provide his license and his dog leash.
Sorry, sir, but leash laws are for his own good. The fine is $10. You behave, little fella, you hear me?
But instead of being grateful to Peter for coming to his aid, Brian continues in his foul, disrespectful attitude.
Oh, look at you, big man. Can't even afford to buy an air conditioner for your family.
The next morning, Brian, who's still holding a grudge, becomes even more disrespectful.
Oh, eat with us, Brian. I made cinnamon buns.
May I have one on a plate, or is Peter planning to balance it on my nose?
Following a big argument, which is really all about nothing, Brian decides to leave the house. But the dog soon discovers that life outside isn't as pretty as it looks.
Get away from me, you crazy animal! Do you want me to be a crazy animal? Okay, I'm a crazy animal.
Talk about having dignity. I wonder what's more degrading, performing at a dog show or attacking random strangers on the street. Unfortunately for Brian, he gets arrested and is sentenced to death by lethal injection. But Peter isn't going to give up on his dog. Thanks to Peter, the city council agrees to listen to Brian's case, and Brian decides to represent himself. But being a dog makes things even tougher.
Why are we listening to a dog? Take him away!
Meanwhile, Peter, now having understood the systems of the world, and comes to the rescue.
I'll give you each $20.
Deal, he can go.
That should teach Brian a lesson on humility.
The moral of this story is some people shouldn't hang out. Hell, that's how Lil Durk and King Von went to jail so many times. With that being said, make sure to comment, like, and or subscribe. It's your boy BlastphamousHD. Peace.